take it to Europe. In Europe, it was a very big, huge success. But in Rwanda, of course, the Rwandan government fears the truth. That is when you tell them, you try to tell them the truth, they are very nervous. They don't want to face it. They don't want to sit down and talk. And even to you, as an audience, I sometimes wonder what you think. If you see someone who has got no right to speak out in his own country, but it travels from Canada, from Kigali, and comes to Minnesota, to Minneapolis or St. Paul to prevent Ambassador Flatten, Paul Rusesabagina, Theogene Rudasingwa, or even our friend Peter or the other ambassador, to prevent us from speaking. He can speak in his own country, and he prevent other people from speaking wherever they are. And you, how do you take that? How do you judge it? So in Rwanda, so far, we are not yet in the country, but we are getting there because we have a lot of people who are in contact with us. Of course, we do not talk about this openly, but we have a lot of contacts within the country.
Their crimes after 94. And however, the story in Rwanda is that there had been this long-planned genocide, and that's something that, of course, is a matter of belief, and we've differed on that. And Ambassador Flatten was there to observe the genocide or the build-up to it, and to observe the conspiracy to carry out the genocide. I'm wondering, Bob, if you have any observations on knowing that none of us has the truth absolutely.
Of course, I have absolute truth. As Peter knows well, I have testified in Arusha on behalf of certain persons with whom I worked during those 3 years, people who were accused of conspiracy of genocide, and I believe firmly that they were absolutely innocent, and testified and spent many hours in front of some judges at the tribunal trying to deal with that issue of could they be actual members of that government and not be part of a conspiracy. Well, I think that Peter has outlined that the judges have come to the conclusion that it was not a government conspiracy. Now, having said that, there were people conspiring to commit genocide in Rwanda. They were part of some of the political parties even. They were in the media even. But as a government policy, that was not, from my experience working with these people, that was not the prevalent view. It happened. There were people conspiring. But so far as I could tell, those people with whom I worked were not a part of that conspiracy to genocide, as awful as it was.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. I think we have come to 5:30. We'll take a very short break. We'll bid all farewell, so bear with us. We will continue answering, or at least your questions will be answered by the panel. 5 minutes. questions here. Or shall we wait for the picture taking? These questions are not addressed to anybody, any person in particular. So I'll just read them. The first one is, what is the reaction of the international community in regards to this new information, or new approach, or new...
This one?
This one's working.
Hello? No?
Want to come here?
Okay, yeah, one thing I've come to notice that truth is really, really, really very disruptive. It disrupts the person who comes with the truth. It disrupts, in the case of Rwanda, it disrupts, makes the status quo very, very uncomfortable. And it makes especially the international community very uncomfortable. Let me narrate to you two examples that show you the fundamental disruptive nature of truth. When this statement came out on the 1st of October, first of all, I'd been agonizing over this statement for years. And when I felt that I could no longer contain the conflict in my own life, and that week preceding the 1st of October, I determined that by the end of the week on the 1st of October, and I chose 1st of October because also that was the day of the RPF invasion into Uganda in 1990. To be honest, I didn't even want to share what I was doing with my wife. And when you live with a spouse, sooner than later they discover when you're working on something as important as that. She was not at home, but she would call. I think she would listen to my tone. She said, "Tell, what are you working on? I know you must be working on something naughty." I said, "No." And typically, I didn't even share it with the other people that I work with in my organization, or even my own brother, who is my confidant, because I knew that for certain things, somebody must carry the burden and carry the burden oneself. And once I came out, two things happened. One, it's a simple personal story I want to tell you. The other, it's part of a high-stakes game, because I was actually summoned to one of Western governments. I won't tell you which one. But they wanted to know the implications of what I had said. They were asking me such questions like, why now? And typically when people have asked me why now, I always tell them that, like the English saying, better late than never. That is sufficient as far as I'm concerned. And then they said, what is the motivation? But one of the things they told me as I narrated this whole story about why I wanted to come out with the truth, I'm not trying to score points against Kagame so that I can become president, or I'm not trying to score votes from Hutu so that they can vote for me. I'm not looking for votes. I simply said that I just wanted to do it because I believe it's a missed step, because without us getting it right, I'm sorry to say that the bigger steps of reconciliation, of stability, and political transformation can never go very far. Because you cannot build a nation by simply basing it on the lies and very false narratives, which has been the case since 1994, the death of the president. Whatever followed is well known both in Rwanda and the region. And so the gentlemen who are listening to me, in a very quiet, diplomatic, but very forceful, they say, but you know that what you're saying is very distracting and very disruptive. I said, yes, I know. That's precisely why I had to come out with the truth. And so at the level of governments, especially if governments, Western governments and the international community has been part of the false narrative, and you know governments are always very, very hesitant. They have a lot of inertia. Once they adopt a policy and the narrative, they stick to it. And the technocrats and everyone, they have to be unified in giving that kind of narrative. So you can see, I can imagine that there are so many many in the international community who are not happy with this confession, but we've also made sure that we say it in very emphatic ways and very strongly that we've begun a process which nobody is going to stop, that we shall push it to its logical conclusion. The logical conclusion is not to drive Kagame to the sea and kill him, no. But we are saying that just as the International Criminal Tribunal and the whole international system ganged up to try Hutus who are responsible for genocide, I would imagine that the same international system and the same government that support it, though it's uncomfortable, they must also begin to think that there shall be a time when Kagame and the few people he used to commit this crime will be brought to justice. Whether at some point we as Rwandans are going to determine that everybody who is culpable or everybody who has been found guilty is going to jail, or we are going to kill them or going to drive them to the sea, I do not believe in that. I believe that there has to be a point in time when, as Rwandans, we're going to sit and then figure out that since there are so many of us who have committed crime, what do we do with it? What do you do with people who are in Arusha, people who are in the community?